Okay, imagine this for a second. Two people, completely different, both incredibly driven, right? And each one thinks they're on this, like, righteous mission.
Right, operating in the same city, totally unaware of each other.
Exactly. But their paths,
Hmm.
they're heading straight for collision. And it's
Yeah.
about to just tear things apart and expose some really, really unsettling truths.
Hmm.
So in this deep dive, we're taking a really close look at this series of, frankly, strange and disturbing events that just gripped Buckeye City.
Yeah, we've pulled together quite a stack of sources, police reports, investigator notes, even personal accounts. The goal is to really tease out the main threads of what went down and maybe understand the why behind it all.
Our mission, basically, is to untangle these two narratives. They seem totally separate at first, both pretty chilling, but they connect in ways you wouldn't expect.
We're going to explore the motivations here, which are complex, to say the least, and how the truth eventually surfaced, often in really unexpected ways.
And the connections, the surprising links between lives that seemed miles apart. Get ready for some real aha moments, I think.
Definitely. It tells you a lot about conviction, belief, and maybe where that can go wrong. Terribly wrong.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our story really kicks off with Alan Dufree, Chief Loan Officer, First Lake City Bank.
Right. And he gets convicted on child pornography charges, ends up dying in prison, shanked at Big Stone, as the reports say.
But then, and this is where it just takes a wild turn, this other guy, Kerry Tolliver, terminally ill, he confesses, says he framed Dufree, slipped the CP onto his computer.
Yeah, and the motive, you mentioned it, it's almost mundane compared to the consequences. He wanted Dufree's promotion.
Wow.
But even more critical, Tolliver insisted he confessed to A.D. Allen, the prosecutor, before Dufree was killed. And according to Tolliver, the ADA just sat on it, didn't act.
Which raises huge questions, right? How does an innocent man end up not just in prison, but dead?
It points to that tension, the pressure to win cases versus, well, the actual truth. A miscarriage of justice with absolutely tragic results here.
Okay, so this is the backdrop. And now, our first sort of crusader, he steps onto the scene, uses the alias Bill Wilson, name probably rings a bell for some listeners, founder of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right. And he also goes by Trig, or Trigger, in AA and NA meetings. We later find out his real name is Donald Gibson. And the key connection, he was juror number 9 in that Alan Dufree trial.
There were 9. Okay.
And if you look at his motivation, it seems to come from this deep, consuming guilt, almost corrosive. He felt he'd personally browbeat other jurors into voting guilty, saw it as flinching, not sticking to their doubts.
And that phrase came from his father, no flinching, no turning away.
Exactly. It haunted him. So he started rationalizing these horrific actions later as making amends. It's twisted, but he almost framed murder like an addiction parallel to his alcoholism, a compulsion driven by this warped sense of moral debt.
Chilling. And his targets, they weren't random. They were all tied back to the Dufree trials somehow. And he had this signature, didn't he? Leaving slips of paper.
Yes, with the names of other Dufree jurors on them, found in the hands of his victims, who were themselves innocent bystanders.
So, Annette McElroy, she was found with Letitia Overton, juror's name.
Right. Fred Sinclair, a young hitchhiker, found with Andrew Groves.
And then Ellis Finkel and Jabari Wentworth in the laundromat. They had Turner Kelly and Philip Jacoby. Initially ruled suicides.
Initially, yes. But Gibson later takes credit for those deaths, too. It fit his pattern.
So why? Why target these innocent people? What was the thinking there?
Well, his warped logic, as far as we can piece it together, was that innocence must pay to punish the truly guilty. The guilty, in his mind, were the jurors who convicted Dufree, A.D. Allen, Judge Witterson, basically anyone involved in what he saw as the injustice.
Okay, but there was one victim who didn't quite fit that pattern, Reverend Rafferty.
That's right. Reverend Michael Rafferty, or Big Book Mike, from AA, Gibson shot him with a different gun, a .38, not his usual .22, and he staged it to look like a robbery. The thinking seems to be it was to silence Rafferty.
Because Trigg had let something slip?
Apparently so. He'd mentioned knowing someone who died in lockup. Rafferty might have put 2 and 2 together, or Gibson feared he would, so he deviated from his main mission to cover his tracks.
Okay, let's shift gears now. We have this second narrative running parallel, focused on Kate McKay.
Right, a very prominent feminist lecturer, very public figure, outspoken, unapologetic.
Draws strong reactions, both support and, well, intense opposition.
And that opposition is where her stalker comes in, Christopher Stewart. And his motivation, it's a completely different world from Gibson's guilt. Stewart was driven by this fervent religious zealotry. He was part of a group called Real Christ Holy.
What were they known for?
Aggressive anti-abortion protests, among other things. But for Stewart, it became deeply personal because of his sister, Chrissy. She died from Brugada syndrome, this rare heart condition, and somehow, in his mind, this loss fused with his religious beliefs.
Oh, so.
He became convinced Kate McKay was a baby killer, someone who stood stridently and shamelessly against God's law. Her existence, her platform, became an affront to him, tied up with his grief.
And this led to some really unsettling behavior, adopting his sister's persona.
Yes, the Chrissy persona. Wearing her dresses, a wig. Part of it, the sources suggest, was to comfort his grieving mother, who seemed to encourage this secret. But it was also integral to his mission. He apparently believed that when he was Chrissy, his sister was somehow still alive.
Wow.
And this dual identity allowed him to justify what he was planning. He saw himself as a crusader doing God's work through this persona.
It's a disturbing blend of grief, religious extremism, and this constructed identity.
Absolutely. And it fueled the attacks. They weren't just threats. They were designed to terrorize, to make Kate and those around her feel constantly watched and vulnerable.
Like the attack on Corey Anderson, Kate's assistant.
Exactly. The bleach attack in Reno. That's incredibly personal, incredibly violating.
And there were other things, too. Anthrax threats. Notes.
Oh, yes. Menacing notes quoting scripture like, "She who speaks lies shall perish." Proverbs, I think. And maybe most chillingly, that photo. Kate and Corey laughing, but in the background, you see Stewart's F-150 truck, a clear message. I am watching you. I can get close.
And you mentioned he wasn't working entirely alone either. His brother was involved.
That's a crucial piece. His brother, Deacon Andy Fallows, deeply involved, according to the investigation. He was providing what they called love offerings, basically cash, and seems to have been advising Chrissy.
So the brother's influence, the church's ideology, it all sort of created the support structure for Stewart's violence.
It certainly provided the framework, yeah.
Yeah.
The sources suggest Stewart felt Fallows had sent him on this mission, likely knowing it could be, well, a one-way trip. Desperate measures.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating. Because these two separate strands, Trigg's killings and Stewart's stalking, they start to intertwine.
They do, and a lot of that initial connection comes down to the work of Holly Gibney, the private investigator.
How did she get involved?
It started almost incidentally. Someone asked her about that Bill Wilson note left at one of the scenes, but Holly has this, well, she calls it crazy intuition, and it put her on the right path.
Led her to Reverend Mike's AA calendar.
Exactly. And on that calendar, just one word scribbled down, bricks. Seemed like nothing, but Holly sensed it was important.
And that turned out to be the key.
It was the key to linking Bill Wilson to Trigg, yeah. Meanwhile, you have Detective Isabel Janes leading the official police investigation into the killings, the surrogate juror murders.
And Holly shared her insights.
Often through a mutual friend, John Ackerley. He was the bartender who actually found Reverend Mike's body. Ackerley, through his own AA and NA connections, was also feeding intelligence. He helped confirm Trigg was likely Donald Gibson.
But the police had trouble finding him.
Right, because after Gibson's photo appeared in the newspaper just as a juror, before he was a suspect, he shaved his beard and started wearing glasses again. Changed his appearance.
So Briggs, how did that connect?
It was Holly again. She eventually figured out Briggs wasn't Briggs at all. She had a hunch, got a graphologist involved, and the handwriting analysis confirmed it. Briggs was actually Trigg. That was the breakthrough.
Wow. Okay, so both these stories, Gibson's and Stewart's, they're building momentum, and they both converge around this one big event.
Yeah, the charity softball game, the annual Guns and Hoses game between the police and fire departments at Dingley Park.
Big community event, supposed to be fun. They even had Sister Bessie, the soul legend Betty Brady is her real name, singing the national anthem.
Right. But this festive backdrop becomes the stage for both killers' final acts. It's incredibly chilling how it aligns.
Did they plan that? The convergence?
It seems entirely coincidental, which is maybe even more disturbing. Both Gibson and Stewart independently zeroed in on the Mingo Auditorium, where Kate McKay was speaking later that day, and the auditorium is right near Dingley Park. So you have this huge crowd, lots of police and fire personnel distracted by the game.
Gibson actually noted that, didn't he? That the police would be busy.
He did. He saw it as an advantage. Maximum exposure for his message, maximum chaos, and fewer cops focused on him.
Okay, so Gibson's final plan. It involved more kidnappings.
Yes. He kidnapped Corey Anderson, Kate's assistant, and also Barbara Robinson, who was Holly's friend, a poet who had recently befriended Sister Bessie.
And his goal was to use the Mingo Auditorium's big digital signs.
Exactly. He planned to display the names of those he blamed, Edie Allen, Judge Witterson, alongside the names of the jurors from the slips of paper he'd already left. And then, the grand finale, his own name. Donald Trigg Gibson, Juror 9, guiltiest of all. A public confession mixed with accusation.
Meticulous, but also incredibly grandiose and risky.
Oh, completely. It shows that self-image he had, the criminal mastermind, even while, internally he's battling that daddy voice telling him he'll screw up, he'll get caught.
And at the same time, Christopher Stewart is making his move.
Simultaneously. He arrives at the Mingo area, dressed as Chrissy, armed, still laser-focused on killing Kate McKay, convinced, as the notes say, that nothing will stop her but a bullet.
So the final scene plays out, not at the Mingo, but at the old Holman rink.
The condemned skating rink, yes, inside Dingley Park. Kate gets this chilling call from Stewart, implying he has Corey, tells her to come to the rink alone.
And she goes.
She goes, terrified for Corey. Meanwhile, Holly's putting the pieces together about Gibson's plan, realizing the rink is likely the spot. She races there.
And others are heading there too.
Jerome, Holly's partner, and Sister Bessie. Gibson had manipulated them into coming as well, part of his elaborate setup.
So everyone converges on this dilapidated rink. What happens?
Pure chaos. And this is maybe the most stunning twist. Gibson gets to the rink, expecting his hostages, ready for his big reveal, and he runs into Christopher Stewart, dressed as Chrissy.
What does Gibson think?
He doesn't recognize Stewart or know his story. He seems to think Stewart is just another stand-in, another innocent he needs for his morbid tableau. Maybe, the files speculate, a stand-in for Dufrie's defense lawyer, Russell Grinstead, whose name was next on his list.
So Gibson just
impulsively kills Stewart with the .22, just sees him as an obstacle or maybe part of the plan in his mind. And in this incredibly dark, ironic twist, Gibson's act of murder actually saves Kate McKay, because Stewart was there to kill her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so Stewart's dead. Gibson's there. What happens next?
Holly bursts in, armed. Jerome and Sister Bessie are right behind her. They find Gibson has set the rink on fire. He's got Kate, Corey, and Barbara tied up. It's a desperate scramble, cut the women free, drag bodies out of the smoke and flames.
Kate helps drag Stewart's body out, even after everything.
Yeah, the account says she was just croaking Hall, pure adrenaline, survival instinct kicking in amidst the absolute horror.
And outside, the guns and hoses game
devolves into a full-blown riot. Cops fighting firefighters as news of the rink disaster spreads. Total breakdown of order.
The fallout must have been immense.
Oh, huge. Police Chief Alice Patmore, Fire Chief Darby Dingley, both forced to resign. Massive public outcry. How could this happen? Why were they playing softball while a killer was on the loose?
And for the individuals involved, what happened to them?
Holly Gibney, understandably shaken despite her bravery, resigns from Kate's security detail. Recognizes her own limits, perhaps.
Corey Anderson.
She went home, just home, trying to process it all.
And Deacon Fellows, Christopher Stewart's brother.
Well, he all lawyered up, as they say. Professed total ignorance about Chris's plans or actions. Those deeper questions about his actual level of involvement. They remain somewhat ambiguous. #outro.
So, when you step back from all this chaos, this deep dive into Buckeye City, it really makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. You see these individuals consumed by one single powerful idea. For Gibson, it's this warped sense of justice, of atonement. For Stewart, this fervent, grieving religious conviction.
And you have to wonder, how easily can that single-minded focus push someone over the edge, beyond reason, beyond empathy?
And what kind of unpredictable destructive forces do they unleash when they get there? It's unsettling.
It leaves you with this thought, right? That some crusades, no matter how righteous they might seem in the mind of the crusader, can end up causing the most unforeseen, the most devastating consequences. Sometimes, as we saw here, with a truly bitter irony.